You have old sticky balls or a sticky ball counter. Do you even know which ones you're working with? How many balls have been counted? Is it correct? Are they too old and dirty and sticky to do anything with?
Ew.
This is a ball counter. Obviously, you can count on your own, but if you have something here that's automatic, it tells your game exactly what ball you are on. We're looking at a 76 Bally. This is in Aladdin's Castle. This is your ball count unit. Ball count unit basically means this keeps track of balls that you're on or that you played. This is a stepper. If you look back through some of my videos, I did a few other different types of steppers. There are different kinds. There are continuous steppers. There are increment, decrement steppers. And then there are full reset steppers. So in this back box of the Bally Aladdin's Castle, I've got all three types right in front of me. Our focus today is this ball count unit. Can anybody out there raise their hand and tell me what kind of stepper this is? You see all these rivets touched by these contacts on this spider assembly. You got two coils, so there's a hint. So if we come up here, if we increment the stepper, and if we're to push this coil, I'll tell you what it's supposed to be, but what it's not doing. Okay, our focus right now, this being the ball counter, increment. It's supposed to be a full reset stepper. It's supposed to. Do you see that slight movement? But our ball count unit is sticky. It doesn't look all that dirty, but it is. It's got a gummy film. It could never have been touched, or what we keep telling you guys not to do is use any kind of WD-40. It works for a little bit, but then over time it gets sticky and gummy and it leaves a residue. All it does is attract dirt. So just a quick recap. A unit such as a credit wheel, this tells you how many free games are left on the game. Increment one at a time. Decrement one at a time. And up here you have a continuous stepper. This happens to be the match unit. There's 0 to 9 or 0 to 90, either way. But there's only one coil on this, and it just keeps going around. That's working okay, but in time we're still going to take that apart and clean it because we're already in here. This one too. This one works fine. But we're still going to clean it. But because this one is not working fine, I want to show you guys the how and why. So the way that this works on the Bally, Aladdin's Castle is a 2-player. If I back up, you can see there's only 2 sets of score reels. So you have the option for a 3 or 5 ball game Really doesn't matter in this case, but this stepper is going to work the same for both. You're going to start off, let's see, we got bring it back. It's supposed to spring all the way back, and that's the whole reason we're focusing on this. As I reset it, starts at position 0. Okay, start the game, ball 1 for player 1. If you're playing a 2-player game, it's automatically going to go ball 1, player 2. Ball 2, player 1. Ball 2, player 2. One at a time. If you were playing a 1-player game, you got ball 1, player 1. Then you'll hit 2 steps. Ball 2, player 1. Ball 3, player 1. 4, 5. And then the very end you would have ball 5, player 2. It can't go anymore. That's how I know this is this type of stepper. But that's how the Ballys work. First ball, first player. First ball, second player. Second ball, first player. It just alternates back and forth between players and the number of balls. If it were a 3-ball game, it would just cycle up to the 3rd ball, second player. And that would be the end of that. We're going to take this apart. We're not going to spray WD-40 or any kind of lubricant in there. I've said it 100 times before. WD-40 leaves a sticky film, and it's flammable. Some people are under the impression that more is more. So if it's not loose when you spray it the first time, you might as well just keep soaking it. Doesn't work like that. Okay, it is flammable, and there's constant arcing in these games. So let's say you spray it, first time you hit a score, you got fumes still because you slapped the back on the cabinet again. You got the fumes in the air, the little mist still from the WD-40. One of these relays decides to arc. Now you got a bomb. Let's not make bombs. So we're going to take this unit off of here to get it cleaned up. We're going to leave this disc. There's no reason to desolder or cut any of these wires. But I'm going to set up the tripod. We're going to go in here. We're going to get this out of here. Show you how it works and what we do to free it up. So if you haven't noticed, we'll do it again. Let's step it up. Let's just do 3 spaces. Let's see. Hit the reset. There's a spring right here. This is under tension, but just think about it, that the less you wind it, the less tension is on that spring. I hit the reset, it didn't change at all. Now it's 3 positions. Let's move it all the way up. Let's see if it even moves. It's all the way up, so technically the most tension it's going to get. Now if I shake it around, see how it's sliding back, but I got to push it. Even when I'm pushing it and there's spring tension, it's too gummed up to do anything. But I have to help it. And it's not catching in notches because this is a full reset stepper. I have to help it back. We're going to fix that. So let's set up the tripod and we'll walk you through it. Alright, Bally ball count units for 2-player. Keep in mind, as old as these games are, this being a 76, we didn't do our shaking hands yet with other countries, so nothing in these games is going to be metric. Now you watch, somebody will chime in and say, well, actually, well, now this, but you will have some weird sizes, but this is an 11/30 seconds. So if you're trying to put a 5/16 on there, it's wrong. 3/8 is wrong. 1/4 inch is wrong. No, it's because they actually do have some in between, but they're not metric. So 11/30 seconds. You got these 2 nuts. Slip that off there. Okay. Now you're kind of bound by the wiring. So what do we do? Do we desolder all this and then pray for the best? Now you can. I guess if you were ambitious, you can. But I'm not that ambitious. So right now, we'll look at this from the front now that we got a better camera angle. I'm hoping, let's see. I can't really see, I can't even see my little screen, so I'm gonna step it up. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 positions. Reset. Nothing. I can still push that way if we want. All we're doing is winding up the spring. So now, I'll just put my thumb here, see if I can get this screw loose. Pay attention to where it's at. How this spider, these little fingers here, it's referred to either as contact fingers, or you'll hear a lot of people like myself refer to it as the spider because it kind of looks like spider legs. The spider's missing a leg. What you can do is take a marker if you want. Just keep in mind though, we're going to clean these off. So you might have to make it in a couple places if you want. Take a picture. That usually helps even more. See this red wire here in the home position. Make sure it's at home. I'll mark here. I'll mark this leg. And I know red wire. Take a note, make a picture, whatever you have to do so you don't put this thing on backwards. Some of these can only go on 2 different ways. So if it doesn't work, maybe try flipping it around. But some of them, depending on what type of unit, there could be multiple ways to go on. Then it's just wasting time. So we'll slip this off of here. Okay. See, it's only going to fit 1 or 2 ways here. I know that's not it, because remember the red wire? I turn this around like this. Boom, there's my mark. Even though I'm going to end up wiping that off, I know where it's going. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do is check these. These aren't usually so bad, not like on a switch. But first off, they're not worn down to nothing. And second, that they're not loose. Rivets do tend to come loose sometimes. Okay, I'll set that aside. I seem to be missing a screw here. or they just put one in. But how that finger of the spider was lined up with this red wire, it was centered on the contact. That's something else you want to keep in mind, because when it's not, check this out. There's no slots, but I will find another screw to put back in here. But look, it does have room to move. So when that happens, this shaft is staying put per the gear teeth on the other side. You throw off your spacing and your timing of a lot of stuff, and you get weird issues. So let's not do that. With that also in mind, we're going to get a marker and we'll mark exactly where that should go. Okay, so let's marked in the hole. I marked here. Okay, so I marked on the plate actually behind it of just where one screw goes there. Take this off of here. It will free us up somewhat. So this looks like possibly an 832 screw. I'll verify that so I could get another one to put there. Okay, as I take this off, move it out of the way, all my wiring on the back side is intact. Nothing hanging. Alright. See, this wire harness is still going to tie us up. So we're going to take this this switch off here. Again, take whatever pictures you need. And even ones that you don't think you need. So this one, all your bakelite stacks are on top of this plate. And your, I can't think of the name of this metal plate here, but your enforcement plate is going to go on the bottom. And the metal bracket is sandwiched in between those. So there have been times I put stacks on, I put them on the wrong side and can't figure out why they're not hitting. Well, that's why I do these videos, because sometimes I have to go back and watch so I can put stuff back together. I'm not an expert at this stuff. I'm still learning just like you. I'm probably just a few weeks ahead of you. Yeah. Hey, truth hurts. Okay, let that fall apart. Okay, they gave us a little more freedom. Coils are two different sizes. This bigger one is going to do a lot more of the work. Remember, it's putting tension on the spring, winding it up, and it's going to do more work, so it's the bigger coil. This is a reset. See, look, after we took that tension off, now it's springing back. So that's telling me that this might be okay. It's probably still gummed up in there, but without the extra pressure of the spider fingers pulling up against this rivet disc, that's just a little too much tension for it. Can we wind the spring another couple times? Yeah, but that kind of defeats the purpose. So what's going on here? What happened? Did we jump this around too far? Yeah. Oh, that's why. Okay. Okay, there's our 10 positions. That's what happened. This came around too fast and too far. Okay, so now let's uninhibit us a little bit more, and we will, well, you got this ground wire, or this return wire over here, being held on by one of the screws to the coil. Take this off. There is usually very little reason to go cutting or desoldering any wiring in here. And don't let me go off on a rant when it comes to these Jones plugs. You can't see them. These guys, they plug into the back of the cabinet. We'll show you that later. But I see them with them when people cut them because somehow they think these games are built in one big piece, and they don't know any better, so they just cut things. Okay, took that off. We're going to take off this return coil. These are just some standard Phillips screws because it's a Bally or a Williams. Remember, if you've seen any of my videos, Gottlieb back in the day did not use Phillips head screws. He only liked the standard head. Alright, there's your return coil stop. There's a sleeve. It's not going to fall out, but we'll take this plunger off of here because it's going to slip off anyway. Okay, so return. Here's your increment coil. So let's say return or reset coil first. This one is your step up or increment coil. Again, 2 screws to remove the stop. Okay, and this one, watch this. When I take this off, I take the stop out. Set that there. Okay, I'm going to take this whole thing off. You're going to see, especially on Bally's, you got a washer here. This is a spring washer, a beveled spring washer. I don't know if the camera shows that curve. Okay. With the lower part towards the center of the coil. Put it on like this. Doesn't always line up right. So basically cupping up. Think of it like just you want to hold something in a bowl or a cup. So do that. Take the plunger out. This is the aluminum sleeve. I mean, on this, you can change it to a nylon one if you want. It really doesn't matter. And this one's not, it's actually not real worn. This isn't getting a lot of use like on a flipper or pop bumper or something like that. So remember that the sizes in coils, your increment, decrement, or reset coil. I'm going to try and confuse you and use 4 different names for the same part. I'm not trying to, but you get used to doing certain things, and the coils technically have different functions. Okay, so we got one last piece holding us in here. We're going to take off this switch stack here. This is how it's going to sit with the, remember the top piece of bread here next to the whole bracket. And then the bake light will go under that. Very bottom we have the actual nut plate that it would screw into. The brake light switches. Take that off. We got the unit free. I'll put this back together, just help keep track of the parts. Discourage from falling apart. Take your pictures, take your videos. If you want to send me back a video of you putting it together, that's cool too. Whatever. Technically, I should have probably shown you taking off the spring first because it's still under tension, even at home position. But there are usually 3 to 4 turns on these springs. It hooks right up here next to these extension springs. This is a torsion spring. As you twist it to put it under tension. That slips off. Okay, set that down there. Now because we took off the rivet disc on the one side, we can just take this out of here. We're going to clean up in here where this rides. There's a grease on there. You can see it looks, well, nowadays it looks kind of like earwax. Ew. But this is nylon, this is metal. You don't need lubricant for that. Okay? The only time you need lubricant maybe is if it's metal on metal. Plastic on plastic? No. Plastic on metal? No. Or if it makes you sleep better at night, take 1 drop of 3-in-1 oil, put it on your finger, smear it on there. No WD-40, no, don't be spraying contact cleaner on here. If they're all gummed up, you can't use a chemical for a mechanical issue. Okay, just putting it, all you're doing is covering up symptoms. That's all you're doing. Same with if your radiator in your car leaks, or you have a coolant leak, you don't go pouring stop leak in there. That's just a band-aid, but it's not fixing the problem. So we have the assembly here. We're going to take these off, clean it up, clean all these pieces up, and we'll put it back together. Fair enough? Cool. Let's do it. Alright, I hope you guys got enough light from overhead right now. I've set up the parts that I mostly care about getting cleaned up. So we're still going to take this assembly apart, you know, what's left of it. There's your gear assembly, the spider, your 2 coil stops, 2 coil plungers, and this is the aluminum coil sleeve that's in the increment or the step-up coil. We talked about possibly replacing this, and I don't really feel that it needs it right now because it doesn't get a whole lot of use. I just don't have the right length available. You can take some new ones, you can cut them down. If you have them, change them. But for demonstration purposes right now, I'm not going to worry too much about it. So let's look at the coil stops first. Okay, this actual stop. Think about this plunger. This sleeve goes in the coil. This plunger is riding inside of this sleeve. Bang, bang, bang. And it's coming down. And it's slamming into this coil stop. It's stopping it. Okay. So because of the constant, just like if you're smacking it with a hammer, eventually these edges are going to mushroom out. And become sharp. If I can do this, I mean, you'll be able to feel a sharp edge. But if I can do this and I'm getting scraped and cut, then it's either time to either clean this up or replace it altogether. This is riveted in. It should not spin. It shouldn't jiggle around. If it does, get a new one. They're only a couple bucks. And that goes for any coil stop on the game. Here's the other one. This one's fine too. We're going to reuse them. We're going to clean them. I have some alcohol just in the cap, just because it's easier for me to put my Q-tips in. But let's just clean it up real quick. Shouldn't be that big a deal. And this is the ball count unit, so it shouldn't be that worn, any of it. It's just a ball count unit. Trying to get the sticky film off. See, now you can see how it's coming off. Take some paper towel. Alright. Good enough. Alright, on these plungers, this style has a plastic sleeve. This is what's actually riding in a plastic ring around it. This is what's actually riding the walls of the coil sleeve. Take that off, quick wipe. It's not brittle, you know, so it's not, as soon as I touch it, it's not falling apart. You can still get these two. Most anything here, whether it be springs or plungers, any of that, you can still get. These, you know, the gear assemblies, these whole stepper units, you might have to do some searching, whether it be on some Facebook groups or Marketplace or any of those. You may have to find them if your game is missing one. Pop that back on. Down. Stuff might not look dirty, but you can tell just how dirty my fingers are getting just touching it. Okay, those are done. Add some more alcohol because I spilled it. We got the furnace running down here because the air conditioner's on, so I apologize if there's a bunch of airy background noise. It's the only space I have left to work anymore. Too many projects. Okay, good enough. Let's wipe down what we can on the gear. Okay, now it's a little quieter. And if you happen to watch this, I just talked about the air conditioning. I may not post this until around Christmas time. So if you wonder why the air is on, it's just because it's probably just a big delay in when I get these videos edited. Dig in between these teeth a little bit. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. All these teeth looks like a saw blade. And you got a missing tooth. Missing a tooth. That's your home position. Or not, I'm sorry, not your home, but that's your, as far as it's going to go up. So where that, the pawl, let's see, this guy, that's your reset. Alright, that's your reset. Where these, this pawl in here is catching, figure count back 10 teeth. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so it's starting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then when it gets to this, there's no tooth here for it to catch. So that's how it knows when to stop. So all these are not used. I mean, other than for some holding purposes. But it's just easier for them to mold the thing as one piece instead of having just the exact amount every time. So maybe this is my OCD kicks in. So I try and get all the grime out of the teeth. Is it going to hurt anything if I left it in there? No. Remember, I want to get this part nice and clean, because this is what's actually going through the shaft is fitting into this little spindle here, the housing. Okay, that. Clean this off with the alcohol. Look at it, just from wiping that. Because people think WD-40 and more grease and everything else is going to help it. It does not. It probably helps it for them if they're the type of people that just keep something for a short time and sell it or never use it. But the next guy, this is a 1976 machine. I don't recall the number of games on it, but probably worked fine then. But now the next guy that actually buys it and has to work on it has to clean this mess up. So please think of somebody else besides yourself. Okay. That's wiped down. Before we put it together, we're going to take either a file or the Dremel wheel. We're just going to scuff these up just a little bit, just to get whatever film might be on there off. Okay. This one on a Bally, this is your common. So there is no rivet broken off of it. That's just the way these are. This is going to be constantly riding on the same circuit. Okay, and these are what actually complete the circuit to different branches. So there's my little spider. Ooh. Alright. Let's move on to this guy. Okay, you got two springs, a little bit shorter, thinner one, and then a fatter one. The thinner one on the top pops off just like that. This one pops off just like this. Okay, these have the loops in the center of the ends of the spring. Sometimes you'll see them offset like this. I don't know if you could see that or not. That's off to the one end. Same with that. That just helps keep it flat up against its surface that it's going to. So if you put it on like this, now you got more meat of the spring sticking out, which if you have something else that has to fit onto this shaft, you may run out of room. Okay, so the two springs. Hi-ya. All right, we'll do these one at a time. Hairpin. I like the hairpins much better than the E-clips. They're harder to find, but they're easier to mess with. Okay. There's your increment arm. One of these is called, I believe, a escapement arm. And on this bottom of the shaft there is another hairpin sitting there, and that's just to take up some space between the back of the plate and where this is going to ride. If you do decide to put a screwdriver on here to take this post out, if you start twisting, there's a great chance you're going to snap the threads because there's a locking nut on the back. So loosen that with the screwdriver on this side, then you can remove it. Okay, seeing that this is pretty dirty around there, we may just do that. Let's see. See how easily this comes up. It's like trying to clean up a bunch of earwax that's gross and sticky and makes everything that you touch after it gross and sticky too. Our main focus on this piece, I mean, obviously we want to make sure the arms move freely. I just wad up a big wick of paper towel and I treat it like a big Q-tip. Can you put this in a ultrasonic cleaner and all that, or a parts washer? Absolutely, if you want. But for me, the ultrasonic, you got to heat it up, put it in there, and a lot of times I don't see a huge difference, especially with greasy stuff. It's great for stuff that you have tiny little ports or holes that need to be cleaned out. But this to me is just faster right now. Alright, I'm still going to run some Q-tips down inside. This arm all cleaned up. Wiping it down. It moved freely before. You know, our biggest concern was the shaft not turning smoothly. But why not clean it up? You don't take a shower and put dirty underwear back on. It's just, you're already here, clean it up. Alright. That moves just fine. No lubricant needed. If it makes you sleep better at night, one tiny drop of oil behind these two, you know, between the two plates. But it's not doing a bunch of fast ratcheting like a bonus countdown or anything. Here comes Navi to tell me that she heard a noise. Okay, remember we have that hairpin already on there. We never took that one off. This little arm, if you can't get it to sit, it doesn't hang over. Before you put this all back together, I'm saying this. This doesn't go there. This fits down inside here. Okay. That's just like so. take that hairpin, pop it back on there. Alright. Okay, I'm running my hands across it. I don't feel sticky. You know, it's not polished to a mirror finish, but you don't need that. It's a stepper. Okay, we'll do this other arm. Okay, hairpin slides off. Yeah, that's got grease built up behind it there. This pin doesn't remove. That's riveted in. If this is, it is a little bit loose. We may have to pop that with a hammer real quick. Not super loose, but I do feel some play. Sometimes you can smack that back down. See how this works? That one little notch at the top there. Once it's reset, this can move. You don't have the pawl holding at the teeth. Okay. But as soon as I kick one notch, it slips out of this tooth. The spring tension will flip that down. Watch. Boom. Now that pawl is stuck in the tooth and can freely move. Pulling the escape or the reset, and picks that up because that tooth will hold that up. That's like somebody just coming in and pulling this back for you so that you can reset. Same thing. Okay. Let's do that. I do notice that this coil mount is slightly bent. And I know that's not supposed to be like that. Alright. Now let's go back to the back box again. We'll take all our stuff with us. We're going to deal with that rivet plate. Alright, we're back in the back box. We got our stepper unit cleaned up. I'm going to deal with this rivet plate. Just got some paper towel with alcohol. Get this old grease off. At least the initial film. So then you could take a Dremel with a wire wheel if you want, but I happen to have some Scotch-Brite pad here. I'm going to put a little bit of alcohol in that. Rub these discs down. Doesn't take much. Sometimes the Scotch-Brite tends to leave some grit or part of its material. That took care of most of that. I do have a little bit of stuff in between the rivets here, so I am going to just run this over real quick just to mostly get those areas. Why didn't I do that first? Just because I knew it had some grease still on there. And to me, a wire brush is just kind of smearing it. If it was just dusty, that's one thing. And polish this up just a little bit. You don't have to. Try and get the oxide off these solder joints. Doesn't take much. That's it. Don't do anything with the backside. Alright. Okay, remember our spider unit. Let's I'm just gonna scuff the tips of these contacts. This is why I say to take pictures and mark, because I just wiped alcohol on that. If you're using a marker, you have a tendency to wipe that off. I can still see the faint mark of technically where I needed a screw, so that tells me that the old one went here. So let's say I did have a mark on it where the spring went. Well, the nice thing about used parts is sometimes there's wear marks. Like right here, there's a pretty decent scratch telling me that originally this sat over like this, I don't think you can see that on the camera anyway. Sitting in here. Just look for clues, you know, or mechanically what would make more sense. And just because it was in there doesn't mean that's where it belongs, or any of this. So pay attention how you take it apart. But if it's ever been gone into it before, which is very common, especially on games that are so old, somebody's been in there before. It doesn't necessarily mean it's put back together right. So we'll put our gear in here. Okay. So we're going to take this from its resting position. We'll go 1, 2. We'll keep it at 3. Just to start. Hook it back up where it originally went. That puts that spring tension on it. And let's okay. Here's your home position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. It can't, well, it can without the coil. It can go further because I can physically push this more. Okay. We'll reset. So we're catching it locked in. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's your missing tooth. Pulling the reset. It's physically stopping because of this blade right here. This, we never took this off. This is just essentially a piece of metal stock that's in there, and there on the back of this gear. I don't know if you can see that. there's a plastic tooth under there that's stopping on that blade. Okay, so it's in the home position right now. Yes, it springs back easily, but remember, after we took all that stuff off before, it still did. Nice and fast. That's with 3 winds. But once we get all this other stuff on here, we're going to see if it still does the same thing. If we have to, we can add tension to this spring by winding around again. Or even if we really had to, which is rare, because you're usually going to start out at about 3 turns. If you had to, you can take tension off. Okay. Notice all the space that you have in between here. Okay. These are where there's my black mark. Right. Alright, what do you got? Come on. Like that. Remember we were missing a screw there? I grabbed another one. This is the original. Looks like it's a 1/8 inch. I got a 1/4 inch. Going to cut those threads down? Yeah, but if it's not necessary, I have plenty of room back there that this length shouldn't matter. I mean, I don't want it super long where it's sticking out to the other side, but with the distance between that bracket and the rivet disc, I think we're just fine. Now I'm gonna snug it up, both sides of it. Remember, we have that play in there, so we're gonna adjust this as needed. Okay. Meanwhile, we're going to clean off these other switches. The switch blade's a little bent. You can use a file. You can use just a quick wipe. Okay. Nice and shiny. Now, remember, we're gonna, as we connect this stuff, we're kind of hindering movement. So try not to twist it too much. You don't want to snap wires off and then having to find out where the issues are later. Okay, we have that screwed down there. So on the opposite side, we can put our coils and our switch stacks back on. This is the one our ground wire is going to go on, our return. I'll start this screw. What did I forget here? Remember that? Alright, we'll go back to that in a second here. How come you guys didn't call that out? Hey, Ryan, you forgot. Okay, we put our ground wire on this side. Let's see, I mess up all the time too. I'm showing you step by step, and I don't edit a whole lot in these videos. I edit a bunch of stuff you don't need to see, but I think you need to see the mistakes too. As long as you weren't following piece by piece as you're watching this. Why do I have to take this out? Remember the spring washer that I made a big deal about? All of a sudden it didn't seem like a big deal. People, you gotta laugh at yourself. Or laugh at me, whatever. I hope you're better than I am at this. I'm just trying to... I'm like probably one lesson ahead of you. There's the stop. Pull that out. Put this spring washer, remember? From the top you want it to be like a copper ball, so the center sits up against the coil. Now I'm fighting tension of all these other wires on here. I like to keep that tight, huh? Okay. Put the coil stop back on. And now it takes a little bit more to hold it because you got the washer. And all that does is take up the play in between the coil stop and the other end. Because this thing's getting pounded, it just helps keep everything else from taking a beating if you put a little bit of give in there, a little bit of spring. These people thought of everything. I mean, think about what they're doing. Just the engineering that goes into this just to make another coin so that they could put out more products like these games. Get another game together if we can get another one done. So, okay. So we start to put the switches on here. But let's check it out. So far, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No more. Reset. Okay, it resets fully. Again, that's without the spider on there. So we're gonna find out. In fact, to keep this accessible without having more stuff in the way, I'm not going to put these switches on just yet. Let's put the spider on the back of this. I do have a little scratch mark that's going to point to my red wire, in theory here. Can't see. I'm trying to hold this out of the way so that you can see, but meanwhile I'm trying to get a better angle. So what we can do, if I hold this on here, that should be okay. We're going to find out if there's any issues with a ball count being off by 1, or you're seeing 2 lights sometimes light up, together. That's a good indication that these aren't in alignment. Because remember, we can loosen these 2 screws we just put in and twist this disc just maybe an 1/8 inch or so. There's not a whole lot of play, but there is enough that it will cause issues. So just to hold this in, pop that on there. Alright, I don't have to crank it down or use an impact or anything like that. So there's no spring on there. Okay, it rotates pretty freely. We didn't use any oil or grease, because it's plastic and metal. With that, you don't need that on there. So now, we'll put this spring on. Okay, so there's 1, 2. There's 3. Okay, we got our 3 winds of the spring. Make sure this is tightened down just snug. Okay, let's step it and see what happens. 1, 2, 3. What I'm watching is that these contacts of the spider touch squarely in the middle of the rivets. Notice I did 3 steps. Well, that purposely opens up access to my screws. I can turn this just a little bit so I can line these contacts up squarely. Tighten it back down. Don't tighten it so much you crack it, because then the best of luck to you, man. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's it. Now, reset. Okay, it reset no problem. What I'm going to do, everybody loves this part, super lube. I take just a tiny film, I put a little glove on my finger, and I wipe it off. Just enough to make these shiny. You don't need globs, you don't need peaks and valleys of it. Just a very, very light smear. It's dielectric grease. A little bit of moisture doesn't usually hurt anybody. So make it moist.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So now we'll step it through. Super lube. You can get this almost any hardware store, any big box store, Harbor Freight. I don't have an Amazon store, but I will put a plug for Ronnie over at Lions Arcade. If you haven't checked out his channel, man, that guy he's a great teacher. But go to Lions Arcade, Lyons Arcade, and they have an Amazon store, and you can get that off of there. Basically what it does is give them a little tip. It's not going to cost you more. They just get a very small percentage of it. I'm pushing for somebody else, not even for me. So it doesn't do anything for me, but it helps him out because even without knowing, he's helped me out over the past several years. So anyway, we'll do a reset. What I want to do, remember, if we're cranking this all the way up to what's going to become its full tension, that's great that it can reset. But let's do this one step at a time. Like the lowest tension, you start at a 1-ball, 1-player game, you shut the machine off, and you come back. Well, the game needs to be started over again. Is it going to be able to pull back to its home position? There's 2 kicks. If it can do it at the first kick, it should be able to do it at the rest. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that's 8 or 9, whatever. But either way, that's working now. So last step is we will put these switches back on. We'll get this mounted back up, make sure everything's hitting the way it was, and when it comes time to start this game up, there should be no issues with this. So let's finish it up, get it back in place. Alright, switches are on. Okay, you want to make sure that they're hitting correctly at the right spots. Switch is closed. Reset it. Switches are open. This, at the end of every stroke, will hit. Okay. Put these back up here. Something else to keep in mind. See how I have this this coil facing? That's going to be a problem when I go to put it back in, because I accidentally turned it with the tabs for the coil wires pointing back. That's also why this is so tight here. No biggie. Wire tabs are out of the way. That pops on much easier. Alright, nut driver. Okay. All wires they have some play. They're not banjo string tight. They're out of the way of any moving parts. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now see how these tabs on the spider assembly are sitting center. Let's see if I can move you up just a hair. These are sitting square on the rivets, so that's good. Should have one more. Okay, reset. Look at that. None of that slow half-ass stuff. Even from first position, goes back. All right, on to the next piece. I think we'll probably do this replay stepper next. I may make a video, I may not. We'll see. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope this helps you when it comes to taking another look at some steppers. Like I said, this is a Bally, a late model Bally. When I say late, okay, mid 70s. Increment and decrement, I'm sorry, a full reset stepper. And there's not a whole lot to it. These are fairly easy. So hope you guys enjoyed it. If you can, do me a favor, click that like, possibly subscribe if you like learning about, I'd say new stuff, but it's really old stuff. But sometimes we have to look back to see where we're going. And there's not a whole ton of documentation anymore. It's kind of a dying art on old electromechanical gaming and pinballs and any of this stuff. The game is physically rewiring itself as you play. So, like I said, if you would, please subscribe, click the like. It does help me out at some point. And I like making these videos for you, so I hope to see you around on the next one. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.